Okay, so schedule says, Nigatsu Futsuka, the 2nd of February is when our test is. So we've got this class and Thursday's class to prepare, and then we're gonna have, the OPI appointments.
Is it the OPI Tuesday, test Thursday?
No, I've got everything scheduled for Tuesday of next week.
Okay.
With the OPI appointments just being slotted in where I have free time before
Okay.
the class before this one. So is there anybody who has to do it after this class? Okay. Still, yeah. Anybody else who would rather do it after and be partnered with Julian? Okay. Okay, and there's only 2 other pairs, so if,
Don't we have an extra person?
Marianne
I
is
think
in
Marianne
tech.
is auditing, so I think she would probably be relieved if she didn't have to. So,
We gotta ask her.
we could always ask her if she wants to participate, but I don't know if she wants to
How do
either.
you feel about us sitting in on Japanese one class?
If you want to.
And is there like a limit on how much we can do it, or do you not mind it?
As far as we're not like taking tests, what have you, just
Yeah, you're
refresher.
not taking tests, just sitting into review. Marianne does sometimes, you can too if you want to.
What time is the Japanese ones?
The Japanese one
3:05?
starts at 3:05 in the same room. So, yeah, if you want to come in early and just sit in for the review. Yeah, we just did the phone numbers thing today.
Well, I'm probably definitely gonna do that with, with Katakana,
Okay,
because.
you feel like you need the review. Yeah, yeah. If you're feeling rusty on katakana, that would be a good thing.
I was trying to remember how to explain the difference to Hunter and, was it, I can't remember his friend, but the difference between Nani and Non. And I just remember Non was closed and Nani was like open-ended. I had to look it up, it was bad. I get it though.
I couldn't explain it either.
Yeah, I mostly just tell people it depends on what sound follows it.
Yeah, and Nani has the particle as well.
Yeah.
But that's all I could say. And I was trying to look for an example in the book and I couldn't find anything. So.
Yeah.
I get what happens is like, I
Yeah,
know,
there's a perfect example
explains it.
somewhere.
It's somewhere here.
So the OPI tests are gonna be next week?
Yeah, Tuesday of next week.
Okay.
Okay, and so, Marianne, real quick, since you're here, are you gonna do the OPI and test with us, or do you wanna sit that part out?
It's
of
fun.
auditing?
No, it's not.
It's fun. It's fun.
I'm gonna sit this one out.
Okay. Okay, so we just need 2 appointment slots beforehand on Tuesday, so I'm thinking, since the other class starts at 3, basically, like 2:30 and 2:45 for the 2 different time slots. Will those times work for you guys, or are there some people who can't be here that day?
Volunteering from 1 to 2 on Tuesday.
Okay.
Or 1 to 3,
Those
excuse me.
Tuesdays.
At the language lab, 1 to 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Or do 2:45?
I can't technically, I'm like slotted down. I'm not sure, I could talk to her to see if I could maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Alenka, because I'm sure since it's volunteer
Yeah.
hours, you could probably shift it by 15
And
minutes.
if,
I'm
are
sure
you
that
actually
we-
good to be here at that time? Because if not, I could stay with Julianne after, and that would work into my schedule
I
perfectly.
could be there at that time. You guys go together as a group.
Okay.
It's better
So-
for.
Okay, so since you can't
Yeah.
do it as easily beforehand, the 2 of you,
I want to get
after-
the reliable and dependable thing.
Right,
On my,
okay.
checkbox.
okay, so the 2 of you for after class that day, and then who wants 2:30, who wants 2:45, or, good either way? Okay, do you guys have a preference about who you pair off with for this? I know you 2 work together a lot, so you guys okay?
I don't care.
Yeah, okay,
Score. That's done.
so,
We'll probably all be there in time for both ones.
right, so just whoever's ready first come in at 2:30, and then the other group come in right after, and then we'll go from there.
We can sit, you guys can just finish and sit and
Yeah.
watch Japanese one fail. I'm joking.
And then you-
They're gonna be awesome.
Well,
They-
they're,
Hunter and his friends seem.
it
pretty
worked out
close.
well that most of the time, your tests are not on the same days with each other this semester, which is good, because I wouldn't have time in my schedule this semester
Seems
for
like it's a big
all
class for Japanese one.
How many
these. It's not that big,
Do they seem pretty strong, or does
Yeah.
it seem?
they seem pretty strong. It does seem like I'm probably gonna retain them.
Cool.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like
You
I've got,
get like bonus points for having recruited some of them.
Yeah, 'cause you technically got Hunter in there.
oh, did you?
Yep,
Cool.
Yeah,
Plus now they've got the
R&D game.
big trip as the end game for the class, like.
Oh,
My big end game
yeah.
is
That's my.
this summer, because I'm going to Singapore, Vietnam, and Japan. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
But I have to take an ACE exam, and that's gonna be like 1 hour. It's the paper one, which is multiple choice for biology, which I need for my major. So,
Oh, wow.
I take that, and then literally the next day, or probably the next morning, I take a 24-hour plane ride to Singapore for you.
Wow.
First class? That's gonna be rough.
Nope.
No.
Definitely not
Don't
first
you-
class.
don't
I
you
don't
wish.
have that money.
Yeah, don't you
24 hours
wish?
First class and what that would look like
Oh, gosh.
on paper.
They have amazing, I'm sorry, let's
Yeah,
learn.
let's get into class.
Let's
I
learn.
would
Okay.
do an inappropriate dress interview, but I
Part
was
to go. Okay, so I've got my bookmark on part 5. Did we start?
I have
doing
no
the
idea
show
what to
stuff?
do.
Me too. We completed, we were
Okay.
starting.
Yeah, we just started on B.
Okay,
So it's like-
we had just started B? Okay, so, okay, yeah,寒いですね。お茶を飲みましょうか。そうしましょ
Just just wanted to double check, masho, like masho ka is also let's go and, so if you said like, umi de, yo,
う。泳ぎましょ
yeah, and that's let's go swimming,
う。Yeah,
or
so
let's go to the beach and swim.
海で泳ぎましょう would be let's swim at the beach, yeah.
Let's swim
And
at the beach.
海で泳ぎましょうか would be shall we swim at the beach?
But does it also imply let's go and swim at the beach? Like, could you use that as the full sentence, or is there a way to say let's go and swim at the beach?
Well, the difference in grammar structure, it's something we haven't studied yet, but is possible to make. Ah,
I got stuck in a really bad traffic.
okay. Yeah, she's in the morning class normally now, but
Oh.
I told them they could sit in on this class if they missed the other. She was unable to get here this morning, so that's okay.
You look tired.
Very tired.
Yeah.
You look,
Hi.
Thanks, that's a really great compliment. A girl likes to hear every day.
oh, I'm sorry,
Oh.
Genki na.
He was really tired.
Aw, ka wai
Thanks. I worked on it all day.
so. Oh, gosh,
But physically exhausted.
yeah.
Between, like, Masen and, like, Masho, is there any point at which those kind of crossover or?
Okay. じゃあ皆さんちょっと聞きましょう。Okay, so let's talk about the different endings. So let's say you're inviting somebody to eat together.
Okay.
So 一緒に食べませんか would be the most polite way to invite them. 食べませんか Okay? 食べましょうか would be slightly less formal sounding. It would be more like, shall we eat?
Okay.
Okay? This is, won't you please eat? This is, shall we eat? And then, 食べましょう would be, let's eat.
All right.
Okay, so in terms of how polite, how formal versus how informal, it is like a continuum, okay? So more formal, less formal. Okay, does that help?
And there's no like
Yeah, those.
Mashosen version?
No, there's no way to combine those two.
Okay.
Okay?
So like, say you're at like a formal dinner, or maybe not like a formal dinner, but like, say like family dinner, something
Yeah.
like that, which one would be appropriate for that?
If you're eating with your family, 食べましょう is more likely. If you're or hanging out with friends, hey, let's eat, 食べましょう would be more appropriate. If you're with people that you don't know as well, so you're being a little more formal and careful, 食べましょうか is fine. If you're inviting somebody who's like higher status than you, or you don't know them at all well, here you're like friends sort of, but you don't know each other that well yet, here you really don't know each other,
So-
or
so
there's
kind of
somebody
is-
very,
asking
like,
me to-
high
So
status.
it's like, high status something, or like a date would be under that as well?
Yeah, like if you're inviting somebody on a first date,
Yeah.
一緒に食べませんか
And
is
the
more
other one is like-
appropriate.
like a work
This is
associate
食べ
or
まし
something.
ょうか is shall we? So it's somewhere in between, and 食べましょう is let's.
Okay, so would that be like a
So-
work associate, or like someone you
could-
know but are not familiar with?
It could be, yeah, like 食べましょうか. Yeah, that could be something like, another way to think of it is, this is an invitation. 食べませんか? Won't you come eat with me?
Yeah.
You know, 食べましょうか is like, you know, maybe the invitation's already been issued, you're at the restaurant,
I see.
but you're suggesting to the person, you know, shall we start eating? You know, 食べましょうか? Like maybe, you know, you haven't actually ordered the food yet, so you're suggesting, shall we?
Right, so you're
Yeah.
already there, you don't have to
Yeah.
ask.
That kind of thing. So you're not, it's no longer necessary to invite them, but you're politely suggesting, shall we get started on this? Because maybe you've been sitting there chatting for so long, the waitress has already come 3 times to ask if you want to order and you didn't order yet. You know, 食べましょうか? Shall we eat now? You know, and then 食べましょう is more like, hey, let's eat. So that could be the same situation and the food has come, or it could be like you and your friends are hanging out and you've been studying Japanese all afternoon and now you're getting hungry. 食べましょう. Let's eat. And you don't feel like you have to make it an invitation because these are your buddies that you hang out with all the time.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Hi.
I don't know if this is like relevant, but I saw this used in like outside sources on the same stuff. But what is the difference in the usage of like じゃあ食べましょうか versus さあ食べましょうか? Or
It's hard to define a difference between ja and sa. They're both sort of like well then.
Is
Okay.
it like, well then, versus in that case, or is it the same thing?
They're kind of the same thing, right? I mean, じゃあ食べましょう. Well, in that case, let's eat. さあ食べましょう.
So,
I just,
Yeah, they're very, very close. I think the difference between those two might be more of a personal or regional difference, where some people are more in the habit of using sa, and other people are more in the habit of using ja.
but it
I
wouldn't be a
think,
big deal if you're just having.
It's not a big deal between the two. Of the two, to me at least, sa sounds a tiny tad bit more formal, but that partly is just because I'm not in the habit of using it, so I don't know how much of that is just me not being accustomed to it, and how much of that is a real perception that it's actually a little bit more formal sounding to say sa instead of ja. Okay, but I think sa is also sort of regional, like Tokyo area, whereas ja is a little bit more universal. But again, I could be misreading it. I've only lived in a couple of different regions of Japan. It's not like I've sampled all the different dialects, so.
Okay.
Okay, does that help though?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So, we didn't do our Hongo Doriru yet.
Should we do the separating them thing this time? Or?
Yeah, did you guys wanna,
Do you think we would benefit more from doing it like separating the ones we're hesitating on, doing those over?
oh yeah,
Oh,
that,
yeah, I like that.
yeah, okay, now I remember what you were talking about. For a second I was like separating, what was I doing there? Okay, so as I go through them, we'll see which ones everybody feels more confident in. And, let's do this. Let's have, Wakaranai means don't know it yet. Yoku wakaru is I know it well. Okay? Point me which direction you think it belongs as we go through, because sometimes it's hard for me to judge
What if
how
it's
well,
split 50-50?
I'll put it in the Wakata 9 pile,
Okay.
okay? So if it's mostly one or the other, I'll go in that direction. If it's hard to judge, I'll go that direction.
Can I ask like something? The yoku wa
Wakata.
karu, like so because we learned yoku, it was like often.
Yeah, it can also mean well in this case.
So like because I noticed we could use like amari and zen for stuff aside from like time. Can like all those sort of time phrases be used like for other things as well, or like the frequency?
Not all of them. Just yoku in particular seems to have those two meanings, often and well. So
Okay.
yoku tabemasu could mean he often eats it, or he's a good eater.
Okay.
You know, like if you're talking about a little kid and, you know, talking about the fact that, oh yeah, he eats his veggies. Yoku taberu.
So would there be something in like, watashi wa tenisu o yoku shimasu? Could that mean I play well and I play often at the same time, or?
Usually, there's gonna be a different verb usage there. Yoku shimasu sounds like you're saying you do it often. Yoku dekimasu means I'm able to do it well.
Okay. And we haven't.
So, we haven't learned
Okay.
dekimasu yet. So, okay, so for the ones that are conjugatable, do you still wanna conjugate through them? Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and run through these.
Taberu,
Yeah?
tabemasu, tabemasen, tabemashita, tabemasen deshita.
Okay, and it means?
To eat.
Hi.
To
To
go.
go.
Ikimasu, ikimasen, ikimashita, ikimasen deshita.
Hi.
Nomu, to drink. Nomimasu, nomimasen, nomimashita, nomimasen deshita.
Oh, and by the way, the gold ones are for the kanji, not just how well you know the vocab. Are you good on the kanji? Okay. Does anybody feel like we need to go over maybe how to write a couple of these complex ones later?
Yes, actually.
Okay,
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful, actually.
okay. Help me remember, and if you want to, right after we do the vocab stuff, we can do some kanji writing stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
Miru,
Just need
To see.
Yep.
So,
mimasu,
Mimasen, mimashita, mimasen deshita.
You're always hesitating because you didn't.
I think the
know.
confusion is like some
I
people
When
are
to go.
saying what it means.
Yeah.
And then others are
Okay, so
saying that-
let's standardize our pattern. So you're gonna read what's here, say the English meaning, and then conjugate.
Yeah.
Good? Okay.
Yeah.
yaru, to do. Yarimasu, yarimasen, yarimashita, yarimasen deshita.
Right.
Kiku,
To-
pass.
Yeah.
Ikimasu.
Wait for this one. Okay.
sorry, I'm
Ikimasu.
sorry.
Ikimasen, ikimashita, ikimasen deshita.
Now you can.
Yaru and suru, differences in, I mean, they're colloquial for the most part.
They're
but-
colloquial. Generally, if it's a compound that takes suru, yaru doesn't replace it very
Okay,
often. If it's a standalone, like, what are you gonna do tomorrow? Yaru and suru are more interchangeable, and there are certain idioms where yaru is more common.
okay. I'll figure that out.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
okay.
Noru, to ride. Norimasu, norimasen, norimashita, norimasen deshita.
Hi, can everybody see now? It looked like Brandon was craning, so I scooted over a tad.
I can see.
Okay. Yeah.
Dekakeru,
To go out.
dekakemasu, dekakemasen, dekakemashita, dekakemasen deshita.
Okay, some people want it over here, okay.
Oyogu, to swim. Oyogimasu, oyogimasen, oyogimashita, oyogimasen deshita.
Okay. Okay,
Kowai,
Scary.
kowai desu, kowai nai desu, kowakatta desu, kowai
Tanoshi.
Tanoshi.
Fun.
Fun.
Tanoshi
Desu.
desu.
Tanoshikunai desu. Tanoshikatta desu. Tanoshikunakatta desu.
Which way?
It's
You're
just
allowed,
my personal struggle, so you can just.
You can just put it, like,
should I just put all the adjectives over here, pretty much?
I'm gonna be spending a
No.
lot of time.
I need to study them myself. That's kind of my struggle.
If you need to do it, don't.
Yeah,
totally.
don't worry, I
It's
mean,
us.
this class has always had a split between people who were struggling and people who were not struggling with certain things. So don't be shy about expressing your opinion.
I want them all over this way. There we go.
Okay. Okay,
Ken's son knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
okay.
I want like people on this side.
Hot, sweet.
Atsu desu. Atsunai desu.
Atsukatta desu. Atsukunakatta desu.
Atsukunakatta desu. Right. I think
Atsukunakatta desu?
atsukunakatta desu. Yeah. The trick is when there's only the one eat sound on the end.
Right.
It changes to the ku and the katta. When it's like tanoshi, you keep
Or it's
an eat
extended.
sound, but then the final eat is what changes to ku or katta. And so what confuses people is that sometimes they still keep a little bit of that e vowel in there, and other times that gets lost completely. And so people get messed up on that one, and they want to keep it all the time or drop it all the time. And it's, yeah.
I kind of like, I get that problem, and then I keep talking,
Yeah.
so it kind of becomes like my mouth doesn't know what it's saying.
Right, yeah, so a lot of that is really just down to practice, you know, and it's a good idea to practice your conjugations out loud like this as well as writing them.
Yeah, because I've written them all down, and I'm sure I have it fine written down, but
Yeah,
it's like
the
reading and saying it.
pronunciation is probably harder for a lot of people than the writing. So it's a good idea to practice writing them, but also practice saying them out loud. If you're writing them again, you can practice saying it out loud as you write it. And then when you're done writing it out, you can sit there with your chart and read it out loud to yourself
Well,
when
also
you're
we should
studying
use
it.
the CD for it, but
Right, yes, listening to the CD for it would also help.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the CD does all the conjugations in
there.
the
Yeah.
form.
They they don't, and they also, a lot of them, they'll cut it into like a native tongue thing, and you're kind of like, what?
Yeah, when they say it fast, like tanoshikatta desu, it can be hard to follow what you're really hearing. But if you're spelling it out for yourself in your own chart, and then you're going back and reading it out loud to yourself, that will help you get it. And you can take it as slow as you want, reading it out, as many times as you want, and you can gradually increase your speed until you get more comfortable with saying it. So,
Chisai. Small.
Chisai desu.
Chisakunai
desu.
Chisakatta desu. Chisakunakatta desu. It's really confusing when you have like the big ones and the small
Oh, sorry.
ones, because I'm trying.
would it help if I trimmed the rest of these that are big?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you get like the small ones, and then you have the top one peeking out, so it's like
Okay.
Nigiyaka Chisai.
Whoops, yeah. Okay, well, that's the other thing, is I can just put the rest of
Yeah,
it
okay,
down
that's
now.
helpful.
That's very
Yeah,
Oki
Desu.
Big.
Or
Oki
desu.
Okikunai desu. Okikatta desu. Okikunakatta desu.
Furui desu.
Well,
Outdated.
outdated
Nice.
Furui desu.
Furukunai desu. Furukatta desu. Furukunakatta desu.
yeah, and old for a thing is a better description for this one. It really only means outdated when you're using it as an insult toward a
okay.
person. But when you're talking about things, you know, it doesn't have a negative connotation when
Okay.
you're saying it's an old jacket or an old
Right.
computer or whatever. It's just old.
Now, what if like, if instead of like saying it in a negative way towards someone, you're saying like they're old fashioned? Like,
Yeah, that's,
but not,
when
not,
it's
not
talking about
necessarily
a
like
person, it's describing old-fashioned ways of thinking or, you know, outdated way of thinking. in a negative way.
Okay, so
If
it's
you
it's
mean that
purely
they're
negative
just
context.
traditional, if you mean traditional in a positive sense, there's a completely different word for that.
Okay.
Okay, but this really, because its main meaning is that it's a thing that is old, when it's used toward a human, it's derogatory.
Okay.
Okay, because that usage of it is basically slang, it's not proper. Okay,
Yasui, cheap. Yasui desu, yasukunai desu, yasukata desu, yasukunakata desu.
right.
Yasashi, kind or easy to do. Yasashi desu, yasukunai desu, yasukata desu, yasukunakata desu.
Hi,
I lost it.
pronunciation.
Yasashikunikata.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yasashkunakata, the combination of the sa and the she, and then the
My
ku
tongue
and
got
kata
tied.
stuff.
When,
Yeah,
when it gets to like,
yeah,
oh, it bothers me so much,
yeah.
because it's not supposed to be there
Yasashkunakata.
with just and then a solid sound.
Yeah, yeah, well, and that's why the pronunciation shifts. They don't say yasashiku nakata desu. They don't enunciate it that clearly, yasashiku nakata desu.
Yeah, that bugs me so much. But my brain doesn't want to say it.
My
Yeah.
brain wants to do it,
Yeah,
just because I hate that I in the way.
yeah, so it's just the way it is.
Samui, cold. Samui desu, samukunai desu, samukata desu, samukunakata desu.
Right,
Otoko no hito, man.
right. Good?
Good.
Okay,
Yasui, vacation, break.
right. Which way? Good?
Yes, we,
Right.
yeah, we're good.
I don't know.
Mine,
Sheets.
sheets.
Ben sheets.
Yeah.
Like paper,
Hi, hi. Any problems with this one? Hi.
Have we used that yet in a lesson?
Yeah.
We haven't really gotten to that grammar point
Okay.
very much yet, but we'll get there.
Hey,
Yeah.
room.
Really?
Yeah.
That away.
Hi.
And you said that was pertaining specifically to like your own personal room?
It tends to be that, but also it is sort of a general term for a room in a house. Doesn't usually get used to refer to a room in like a college or a professional building or anything like that.
Oh, so not like a dorm?
Basu.
Could be a dorm room, but not a classroom.
Like a personal room.
Yeah, a personal room or a household room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bus.
Bus.
Yeah, yeah, it usually kind of has an implication of bedroom, but not exactly. It's not specifically bedroom, but it sort of has that feeling to it sometimes.
Together.
Together.
Right?
Shukudai, homework.
Totomo,
Very.
Kipu,
Tickets.
Mi,
See.
Hagaki,
Okay, some people don't know that
Yeah,
word,
yeah.
okay.
tenki,
Tenki.
weather.
Weather.
Get rid of that one.
Tabemono, food.
Food.
Good.
What was electricity again?
Denki.
Denki.
Denki and tenki sound alike.
Tenki, tenki, and
Yeah, and genki, yeah,
Okay.
and they all have the same kanji for the ki. But the first kanji is different on all three. So ten, gen, and den are three different kanji.
Were there more of those?
Probably, but I don't have any offhand, but the ki idioms are rampant. So kiotsukeru and kinihairu and kiniyuru and kininaru and that kanji ki
this
has,
goes on and
oh
on.
yeah, that's like one of the most common pieces that shows up in like a dozen idioms at least.
Tenki,
Tenki.
Tenki.
I was wrong.
Right, okay.
surfing, surfing.
Right. I don't think anyone has trouble with that one.
Wait, so what is surfing?
Kikite,
Okay.
made, until.
Right. How about this? If you don't have a strong opinion, you don't have to signal anything, but if you want it to come to this side, say something.
Okay.
That way I can just go with whoever needs it to be there.
Tanjobi, birthday.
Good? Okay.
I'll be all right. Oh, yeah, okay.
It's okay. Don't be shy. You're allowed to ask for what you need.
Daijobu, No.
It's okay to ask for what you want.
Boku.
I.
Right.
I feel weird saying I for myself because I'm like, it's masculine.
Yeah,
Really
Yeah.
can't say it.
yeah, yeah, unless you're feeling especially tomboyish that day.
Hiko. Airplane.
Hi, good? Don't know that one yet, okay.
Oh no! The airplane wants to get an airplane.
Yeah.
No. Beverage.
Good?
Oh yeah, I was
Okay.
signaling drink.
Okay,
Like
all I
mental.
saw was a hand motion, I didn't see what it was.
No,
Testo.
I don't think anyone's having a hard time remembering that one.
Yoko.
Travel.
Ah,
How do you pronounce that one?
Ryoko.
Lil?
Ryoko. Yeah, that li small yo thing is hard for me to say too.
Lil.
Ryo, yeah, it's
Lil.
the
Ryo.
Rya Ryu Ryo group has
Ryo.
always given me trouble.
Ryo.
I still don't say it right.
It's so
That's the
weird.
one place where my Japanese pronunciation is not good and people can tell that, okay, she's not a native speaker. If they didn't have that, I'd probably be good. I've had people not know I was American over the phone because my Japanese pronunciation was good enough that they were thinking I was either Japanese who lived in this country for a long time or like from some other country where they just expect people to have better pronunciation than the typical American. But, yeah, because we don't have a good rep around the world for being good at languages.
No, yeah, we just learned ours.
Yeah, so,
Donna. What type?
yeah. Okay.
Sugo. Extremely.
Okay.
それから and then
Okay.
私
Yeah, good, okay.
今
Now.
Okay. For the kanji too, like if you think you don't know how to write that kanji, we can put it over there for that too.
Yamada-san
Mr.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tanaka-san
Tanaka-san.
Mr. Tanaka.
Yeah.
That's my, the time.
Yeah, the ta kanji, is that an issue? Ta da?
It is, I just need practice.
Okay. We'll talk about it some more, don't worry.
We can just talk about it.
Hmm?
We can just talk about it.
Yeah,
Kawa.
kawa. Yeah, do you want me to put all the kanji back in the repeat pile? Would that be better, or some of them too
Those are
easy? This one's easy?
Like, I know them, I'm bad at writing them.
Okay, so we'll work on the writing. Right? Okay.
Oh,
Yama.
Yama is good?
yeah,
Okay.
Kyo today.
Yeah, I think all the kanji that are review vocabulary, that helps. Just the fact that you already know the word and you're only learning the kanji makes it easier. There's less there to memorize, but when you're having to do all of it at once, that's more challenging. So, what do we got here?
Kakkoi.
Oh, Kakko, yokunai.
Yeah, let's do the
Oh.
meaning first.
Oh, sorry.
Cool, and then kakkoi desu, kakkoyokunai desu, kakkoyokatta desu, kakkoyokunakatta desu. It's that irregular one, so we need to review that, don't we?
Musukashi desu.
difficult.
Difficult.
Musukashi desu, musukashinai desu, musukashikatta desu, musukashinakatta desu. Any problems with that one? Yeah, okay. Just on general principles, all the adjectives can come over here, huh?
Sukina.
Sukina.
Polite.
Yeah.
Suki desu. Sukinai desu.
Shinai desu.
Suki deshita. Suki janakatta desu.
Alright,
Thank you, and
We totally,
We did a really good job on that one.
So bad with the nas, I can never remember them.
Denkina,
Genkina.
or Genkina.
yeah,
Wait, which, oh, right.
Healthy,
Energetic.
energetic.
Yeah.
okay.
Energetic. No, I-
Desu desu. Genki janai desu. Genki deshita. Genki janakatta desu.
Alright,
Kirana. Dislike.
Dislike language.
yeah.
Kirai
Kirai
desu.
desu.
Kirai desu. Kirai
です大好きでした大好きじゃなかったです
Right.
Weren't there 3 levels of love? Like, it's like the I give my soul for you, I'd share my food with you, and like, I
You're my
best
brother?
friend love or something like that?
Well, yeah,
What
there,
was
Isn't
there,
it ski, daisuki,
ski and daisuki, and then aisuru. Aisuru
Wasn't
is
there another
more
one that was
like
like-
romantic love or family love, like you love your children or whatever. And then koisteru is more, that's like boyfriend, girlfriend kind of love. It's
Okay, there's a
little
lot more than I
yeah.
thought there were.
Yeah, there are at least 3 kanji that I know of,
Okay.
indicating liking and loving.
Okay.
Ski, koisuru, and aisuru. Yeah, and it's very complicated because it gets more complicated with the cultural
Yeah.
stuff that traditionally Japanese people didn't express their love verbally. They expressed it by doing nice things for the other person. And in modern times, it's becoming more common for family members to say it out loud to one another. But it used to be such a rare occurrence, and it's also becoming more common in modern times for couples to show affection in public, whereas before they didn't at all. I mean, in
So
the
holding hands over there would have been extreme.
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, in the 1960s, probably, the husband would have been walking a couple feet in front of his wife as they walked down the sidewalk together. Now, you know, husband and wife who are older would probably just walk side by side, but they wouldn't touch. But young couples, you'll see them actually holding hands as they walk down the street, or even linking arms or arms around shoulders on
What
a park
prompted that
bench.
change?
Western influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe it was
and, you know,
friends.
even like, you know, sitting on a park bench kissing in public or something is something that can happen in Japan now, whereas a generation ago, it was practically unheard of.
Scandalous.
Yeah.
Their ankles are showing.
Yeah, and another piece of that is movies and TV shows, because drama shows that stuff on the screen, and so it's become more acceptable to visually see it. Therefore, people are less inhibited about doing that, you know, in front of others, you know, than they used to be. You know, even hugging like your own children, it's still like past the age of about 6, most kids don't hug their parents anymore and don't expect to get hugged by their parents anymore. They still like
That's
hug
so
and link,
kinda sad.
yeah.
What happens if they do? Like, is it like they're considered a baby by other children, or?
Yeah, I think other kids would probably consider that a little bit babyish or strange. Some adults would even be like, "What are you doing? Get off of me!"
So if it was
No.
like an 18-year-old son heading off to war, would a father hug his son then, or would that still be
Probably
considered awkward?
not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's scary how, like, I mean, my 16-year-old host sister was leaving for her year abroad in the US, and she didn't hug her parents goodbye. They dropped her off at the airport, they said goodbye at the gate, and she walked onto the airplane.
Did they say sayonara? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and there was no crying in front of one another. I think she probably cried when she got on the plane by herself, but she didn't cry in front of them because she didn't want to get them started. You know?
Chain reaction.
Yeah, so, interesting difference in culture, but
Like
yeah,
Balkans.
when I was living with a host family and their grandkids would come to visit every once in a while, because they lived in another city, but the parents would bring the kids, the grandkids. The 3-year-old used to climb in my lap, and the other people thought it was strange that I liked to let him. You know, they were like, "Why do you want to cuddle with somebody else's kid? He's not even your son. Why do you care?" And I thought he was adorable. I liked him with his little round cheeks and bowl haircut. You know, he had the roundest face you've ever seen with the, you know, bowl haircut. It was adorable. You know, cutest little 3-year-old, and he just totally accepted me, didn't think I was different or strange. He saw me reading an English novel one time, and he was like, "What you reading?" "My book." "What language?" "English." "You can read English?" No, he was 3. He didn't have any concept of me being a foreigner.
That's awesome.
You know, so it was so cool. You know, he just, you know, she speaks Japanese. So he had no concept of anything else.
Basically,
you
it's,
know.
you speak this language, you're Japanese.
Yeah, so, yeah, he was 3. But, yeah, I had a friend whose daughter was 5, and one time we were at a parade and she couldn't see well, so I hiked her up on my shoulders so she could see above the crowd. And somebody else was like, "Is that your daughter?" "No, she's my friend's daughter." "Oh." They were totally confused by the idea that I would be that nice to somebody else's kid. It's just not done. You know, people are like, "Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like kids that much. I like my own kids, but I'm not crazy about kids." I'm
I
like,
hate kids.
"Really?" I've always loved kids, so for me it felt weird. But anyway,
Isogashii.
Isagashi.
Busy. Isogashii
Yeah.
desu.
Isagashi.
Isogashii kunai
Yeah.
desu.
Isagashi.
yes.
Yeah, that way.
Yeah.
That was good. That's.
Theater Johnny.
Okay. Should we conjugate this one again? We just did it, but
Real quick, I feel like it helps to like have it there just to mentally like organize, like not necessarily writing down the conjugations, but just keeping a chart of positive, negative, present,
yeah.
past,
Okay.
like on the board to look at.
Okay. Do you want me to put the chart up again?
That would be
Yeah, that's
helpful.
fine.
Okay. For both E and Na, or is one harder than the other?
I think the hard part is
both
just
would be
switching
nice.
between.
Both would be nice?
Yes.
Okay. So
I feel
E
good on
just
the
did
E's, but the,
Yeah, like not.
Yeah,
not-
once you like, if you just do one for like the month or something.
it's like one day I've got one done, and the other day,
What? Like all the E's, like,
yeah, today's an E day.
Takaitis,
I do not like that it's Janakata des. I feel like it should be easier if it's Janakata deshita because it's.
Yeah,
the
but
other
that's
one is-
redundant.
It's like,
Yeah.
ah.
Yeah, and is it good that I just did the suffixes, or did you want me to do like an example
The
word?
suffixes are.
Yeah.
That's
If
enough?
either on the
That's fine,
word,
yeah.
it confuses me.
Just E
Okay.
and,
Okay, and then a na over here, so we're gonna just do, again, just the suffixes, okay? So des, janai, des, deshta, and jana, ta, sorry, that's a very messy ta, ta, des. Janakatta desu. Des, janai desu, deshita, janakatta desu. Does that help?
Yes.
Yeah, so across the top, we've got the present and the past. And first columns are positive, negative, right? Okay. And I know we've got the charts in Canvas that you guys can print off if you want to fill them in. But some people actually like to do the grid pattern like this because they can then more easily see the relationship between present positive, present negative, present positive, past positive, past positive and negative, you know, all the different relationships. For some people, doing the grid like this is just easier. So you could just do a whole bunch of grids on a piece of paper if you wanted. You know, just make yourself a whole bunch of not quite tic-tac-toe boards and fill them in with every adjective if you wanted to do it that way. That would be another way to practice if you're finding that you need practice just with sheer conjugation. You know, sometimes just coming up with a different way to look at it visually can be helpful, you know. And, you know, voice recording is another option to think about, you know. Say it out loud into your own recording device and then listen back to yourself and work on your pronunciation that way. If you hear yourself stumbling over it, maybe that's gonna be inspiration to work on smoothing it out.
That's how band is.
Yeah.
You record yourself playing your clarinet and you go, I sound like crap. I'm gonna play this again.
Yep, so that could work for voice, stuff too, just as well.
Genki no.
Thinking that,
Healthy and
healthy,
energetic.
energetic.
Yeah, so,
Genki desu, genki janai desu, genki deshita, genki janakatta desu.
right, so does that help having that up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nigiyakana,
Bustling.
Nigiyaka desu.
Nigiyaka janai desu, nigiyaka deshita, nigiyaka janakatta desu.
There you go.
Daijana,
Abhor.
Yeah,
To hate.
yeah, abhor, hate,
Strong
detest,
hatred.
strong hatred. Right,
Shizuka no. Quiet, peaceful. Shizuka desu.
Shizuka janai desu, shizuka deshita, shizuka janakatta desu.
right,
Daina,
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
kireina, right.
Kirei desu, kirei janai desu, kirei deshita, kirei janakatta desu.
Right. Yeah, it's important to distinguish clearly between kirei and kirai, because obviously they're very different meanings with that one letter difference. And the other thing that occurs to me with a grid pattern like this, it's very easy to make the grid big enough that you can also squeeze in literal translations of all four instead of just doing the English translation of the base meaning. If you're doing kireina, you could do kirei desu is pretty. Kirei janai desu is not pretty. Kirei deshita was pretty. Kirei janakatta desu was not pretty. That might help for those of you who are having a hard time getting the meaning to stick. Having the meanings to look at for all of them might actually be more helpful. And once you've written all of these out once, if the writing of it isn't your biggest problem, you could just have them all as like a study thing, and once a day, read through it. You know, if you've got your definitions in there and everything, once a day, read through it out loud. And that would probably help you get both the definitions and the pronunciations down a lot better. It's another thing to think about. I used to do stuff like that, where I would use a larger size flashcard and just do my grid on the flashcard, and each flashcard was one of these, with the grid on the back being the English translations. You know, and then if you've got that, if you've got the grid on the front with the Japanese, the grid on the back with the English, then you can quiz yourself too. You know, and then you can quiz yourself on any part or the whole, right? So if you decide, okay, lately I've been having the hardest time with the past positive, but everything else I'm pretty good with, then you can focus on just practicing your past positive, you know? So, that's kirena. Okay.
Samaranai or Samaranai desu. Samaranai desu.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but is this helping? Having
It
that
is,
up
yes.
here and practicing it like this? Is it good to keep practicing this every time?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Omoshiroi. Interesting. Omoshiroi desu. Omoshirokanakkata desu.
There you go. And what was I gonna say about that? Is it also helpful to have the E's and Na's mixed in, so you have to keep switching back and
Yes.
forth?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sort of randomized?
it keeps it from being easier to remember.
Remember how to do both?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we can keep mixing them together. And this one is
Atarashi
New.
new, yes.
Atarashi desu.
Atarashinai desu. Atarashikata desu. Atarashikata desu.
Hi. time is it already?
20 after.
Wow, okay,
Yeah, we can go on to our, what's important for today.
okay, let's spend some time on kanji, and then we can kind of
Maybe we
backtrack
can do
on
those
to.
first.
This is Tuesday, right?
Yes,
Yes,
this is
okay.
Tuesday, so we still have one more class day before the test.
So maybe we just
So we
focus
can
on those
focus on,
next time.
okay, so next class, do you wanna maybe just put these aside and only do those for the beginning of class
Yeah.
thing? So I will just, put a paper clip on these guys later. Now, since there's one handy. And keep that piece separated from this piece, so that I can keep track of that for you guys, and I shuffled them some, so. Yeah, now, I know you guys are not a big class, but even if you were in the back row, if I made them smaller, would you guys still feel comfortable reading them? Or is it helpful
Like
that
making the
it's
text
this
smaller?
large, making the text? Because
I'd say I'd keep it about that size.
Okay.
Just-
Yeah, I made it that size for myself, partly because I tested, I put one on the front
Yeah.
and sat in the back row, and I was like, yeah, if somebody doesn't have good vision like me, they're gonna have a hard time reading it much
Yeah.
smaller. So,
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I was fine
Yeah.
right here.
yeah, so, yeah, I don't like when it's blurry around the edges, that bothers me, so. You know, even if I can sort of read it, I don't like to have to squint and struggle to read it. Okay, so, let's talk about some kanji. Okay, so I'm guessing that Kaberu and Nomu are at the top of your help list.
Yes.
Am I right? Okay, so Kaberu, I'm gonna actually do the stroke order nice and big for everybody. You guys have this in your book, but it's such small print, it might be hard for some of you to see it. And I'm actually going to add an element that I wish your book had, but doesn't, which is directionality arrows. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, and now for Nomu, this is very interesting. I want you to notice, okay? So Nomu basically skips this step, goes straight to that piece. Let me finish so you've got both of it.
Okay,
Both
you
of them.
have all of it. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm not gonna erase that. Okay, yeah, so Nomu basically skips that step, goes to here, okay? So I'm gonna put that part in. Just makes it skinnier and slanted a little bit off to the side, you see that?
Yeah.
And then it adds this one, that one, that one, and that one.
Does that radical at the top right have any particular meaning, or is it?
Let me just give the, oh, yeah. This piece,
Yeah. Or will because the bottom one is person,
this
right?
part by itself,
Yeah.
it probably does, I don't know it offhand.
Okay.
I would have to look that one up. But you can find a radicals list online that literally gives you every single little radical, even the little dot one. And I think it's the Chinese pronunciation and the English meaning on the list, but you can find that online, you can look it up. And actually, if somebody wants to find out what that one is, I'd love to know, because it would be useful for telling people. I know the piece, this whole piece, as a part of other characters, so I just know it from that, you know, because that's Tsugi next.
Yeah, I've seen
So-
just that, like,
But
when I
this
asked about it
component-
quite a few times already.
Yeah, this component occurs in a lot of places on tops of a lot of different things. But this as a whole also occurs a lot with the though piece underneath. But I don't actually know offhand
Okay.
what that is by itself.
When I do kanji, my dad always thinks I'm trying to learn Chinese, and I'm like, no, Dad, no.
That's so funny. Well, they are, I mean, these exist in Chinese too. They just, which one is common use and which one is like literary use has diverged over the years. So these two, taberu and nomu, are the common use verbs in Japanese, but in Chinese, they're actually, they're more like literary terms, and the colloquial terms for eat and drink are different. Yeah, and the colloquial terms from Mandarin, I honestly have never seen used in Japanese, but it's quite possible that those characters exist in Japanese and they're just not common usage. Yeah. So does that help for taberu and nomu?
Yeah.
And you'll note also that this radical that is from taberu, that piece occurs in other kanji that we don't have yet in this chapter, but that will be introduced later. So, you know, the taberu radical, which is just taberu minus that one piece and squished over to the side like that, that radical occurs on things like gohan also, which is, you know, not surprising, and a number of other terms as well, some of which are, again, more commonly used in Mandarin, and I don't know if they're common usage at all in Japanese. There are certain ones that I've never seen used in Japanese, but everybody in Chinese uses them. So, so does that help with normal taberu at least? Which other ones do you want me to break down for you? Ki. Okay, making space.
Sensei,
Hi.
may I pull up the Genki website real quick? I want to
Oh,
check something while you're doing this.
sure.
Okay.
You wanna,
Oh, I have my
oh,
laptop.
you've got yours, okay. So, he, that one, right? So, sorry. So, the underneath part is like a katakana me. That's one way to remember that one at least. Does that help?
I went to the event part wrong.
It actually gives a different order in the book.
Do they
It's just
do?
the May part, it says the like longer, other way.
They do it the other direction, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. That's, oh gosh, that feels so weird to me. Yeah, I think that is a function of me having learned Chinese first. So sometimes my stroke order is the Chinese way and the Japanese stroke order is sometimes different on some of the details. So do it the book's way, yeah. But, you know, especially since you're not necessarily doing Chinese too, you know, so they're doing this one first, then that one? Okay. It does make them come out more even when you do it that way. When you do it the Met style, it tends to make the final stroke come out longer, and they're showing it as more even, so maybe that's why. That's weird. Never really noticed that before, but every once in a while, we run up against ones where my stroke order is different from the books. Just use the books, you know. This book was done by native speakers, so when there's a discrepancy, it's usually because my habits were already kind of set from 2 years of Chinese class before I ever took my first Japanese class.
Are there any other pitfalls with this chapter's kanji that you can see?
Meter's pretty self-explanatory, right? Because it's, you know, me plus the legs piece. Be aware that otoko is the top kanji on top, and then chikara on the bottom. They show it where the two vertical lines connect. They don't technically connect, they're actually two separate pieces. They just happen to meet at the same point, the way it's written in the font. But in handwritten form, it's not necessarily gonna be the case. Sometimes they meet, sometimes they don't, depending on the person's individual handwriting, how neat they're being, and a lot of other factors. So that's one where the main thing is I don't want you to get in the habit of writing like a Nietzsche kind of fat, and then that. That is considered substandard, doing that as all one stroke. That's a little bit like cheating. That's like writing NITE for night, you know, like text speak or something. It's considered sort of a lazy shorthand that is considered a bad habit. Okay, so I want you to write it as the two separate pieces, the ta and the chikara, which are two different radicals that you guys learned last semester, right? You remember those two? Okay, any questions about ima or watashi?
Can we go through Watashi?
Okay. Yep. So watashi, I'll just come over here with it, so. Okay, so it's, this part is like katakana mu. Okay, directionality is like this.
It's kind of like chi with extra dangly bits.
Yeah,
and moves.
yeah, yeah, and this piece is a common radical, as is this, which is, you know, moku. You remember moku from
Sure.
Mogyobi? So you wanna be careful that you get your extra line on the top there, because this isn't it. It's gotta have that extra piece. And I've known a number of students over the years to get themselves confused and forget that extra line, and then your watashi looks really strange. Okay, oh, the other thing I was gonna ask about, is I have had people at times have trouble differentiating between the gen and the ten. Okay, so, again, you're basically writing a katakana ni, or the number 2 ni, and then the legs on the bottom that are the same as in miru, almost, right? Right, they're almost the same legs. And then 10, it's like you're writing a ni and then a hito through it. And make sure it does not cut through all the way. Yeah.
Do you have the kanji alive on the canvas? This is the thing I was remembering. So you press
Ah.
play and it shows you the stroke order and which direction.
Nice.
And it's kanjialive.com.
Okay,
So
send me
it'll-
that link, because I do
okay.
not
My
have that
brother
on
had one of
campus
those
yet.
too, that's really nice. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the Genki web. It was something I found in like first chapter, first semester. I was like, I don't
Okay.
know what this is, but.
Yeah,
No,
and
it's-
is it specifically the Genki content, is the Genki
No, the
kanji, or-
Genki content has one where they'll show you the kanji.
Yeah,
But if you know if you have an IME, or if you can get, I don't know if it does Romaji, actually.
but no, what I'm asking is it specific to the kanji that we're studying, or is it just general?
This
It's
is just
all
general, it's all
kanji?
kanji.
Okay,
there.
but you can look up the ones
Yeah,
that
you
are
type
in your
in
chapter.
You type
So-
in the hiragana or katakana for it, or the
Okay.
hiragana for it, and it will.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. If you send me that link,
Yep,
I will add
I'll
it to
do that.
Canvas.
Maybe this is just a print font
Uh-huh.
thing, but do the first two strokes in 10 tend to be more even than in Gen?
In handwriting, I don't think there's a noticeable difference between the two, but it does look to me in the print font as if the 2 on 10 are closer to being even. But if you're gonna err on the side of one being larger than the other, the bottom one is better off being a little bit longer. It would look odd, I think, if the top one were noticeably longer than the bottom one. But if you can get them close to even on 10, that's fine, that's good, that's the way they're showing it. Yeah, they look almost identical.
Well, it's really
In the
noticeable in the
print font.
stroke order breakdown.
Yes, yeah, it is. That's interesting, I never noticed that before. And, yeah, you could be right that it's just a print font thing, or it could be that technically you're supposed to write them more even, and the ones on Gen, it's more noticeably shorter, longer. I don't know though. Any others that anybody wants help dealing with? What's that? I know, isn't that funny that it's the title of our book and they didn't write it in kanji on our book?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think at least they would have put it on there somewhere, even if they wanted it in hiragana for the sake of people who haven't gotten to this chapter yet.
I'm sure it was a design thing.
Yeah, I'm
They made
sure.
some design in there, so it was too much.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, we did not yet finish some of the, other Kaiwa exercises that I wanted us to do, so I wanna do that a little bit. And then if we have time, we can go back to the kanji section again and look at some of the exercises there.
I feel like we should just start from the beginning with part B, because we only got 2 into it.
Okay, yeah, so we might as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
About the book sections and.
oh, yeah, it's in both languages.
That's me,
Okay. Okay, so we're doing the Mashoka suggestions. Okay, so let's go ahead and have Marianne and Jarrett read the example again because we may have forgotten what we were up to. 142ページです. Okay, so A, B.
寒いですね。お茶を飲みましょうか。
Yeah, got it.
I know, it's just, my mouth was messing with my brain. So shimashou.
はい、そうしましょう. So does everybody get the idea? You're using the statement that they give you, and then you're adding a comment, like, or a suggestion, let's do such and such because of that, right? And then the other person's just agreeing, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so, じゃあ、san, try 1番 for us.
That's sweet, isn't it?
Okay, which means it's 暑い暑い暑い暑い暑い暑い
It's hot.
Yeah.
Yes, so, I remember doing this
Uh-huh.
and forever at it, so,
So, how would you, what kind of suggestion could you make if it's hot outside?
サーフィンをします。
はい、サーフィンを
しますか。
しましょうか。
しましょうか。
はい、
そうしましょう。
はい、
12時ですね。昼ご飯を食べましょうか。
そうしましょう。
はい、いいですね。
私も
3番。はい
この宿題は難しいですね。勉強しましょうか。
そうしましょう。
はい、is that that a little bit of a tongue twister? So shimashou.
What lesson was it? So is that, so shimasu? Is that what that?
Yeah, you're,
What
Yes.
lesson was that from?
well, so is like from so desu ne.
Oh, okay.
That's the
Yeah.
case. So shimashou, let's do that.
All right.
Yeah.
It's hard to make it come out naturally when it's all
Yeah.
on hiragana.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So shimashou. Yeah, well, and there really isn't any kanji for that phrase. Okay, so, どうぞ、白田さん。
明日は先生の誕生日
ですよ。
ですよ。Sorry.
Is it?
I don't like what's I don't know.
Okay.
Using the vocab that we have.
Yeah, that one was hard.
So
Tanjobi, yeah, is birthday, right? So,
Yeah.
for
What
example,
do we do?
you could say, well, have you guys done party?
Yes.
Party.
Party.
Party o shimashou ka would be an
Okay.
option.
Okay. We used to have a party as like an actual vocab where we just had it like.
Yeah, or other things you could do, presento, have you had that word, presento? Or, shimashou ka? Or,
Drink with our teacher. Oh no.
お酒飲みましょう
Yeah,
か
you're
that,
right.
that may be what they had in mind,
That's
because
what I did for the whole.
in Japan, that's actually a very normal kind of thing for
Yeah, you
college
go out to, like,
students
a-
to go out
oh, okay,
drinking
like
with
really
their,
good drink.
yeah, yeah, you can get like a private room for your party, and yeah, taking the teacher out and treating the teacher to something would be fairly normal in Japan.
When is
Yeah.
your birthday?
はい、
When is your birthday?
あ、4月。
Specific day.
4月1日です。1日。
So you've got the good days. First day?
4月1日。はい。
We're all looking at you
So
like, you
Tsui-
gotta know.
Yeah, yeah.
Tsui was, let's see.
1日。
Yeah, that was,
いや、はい。
yeah.
So your birthday's on April Fool's.
はい。
Oh.
That would suck.
There are a couple of other people who have that same birthday that I respect, so I don't mind it as much as I did when I was a kid. One of my favorite authors and one of my favorite TV news people. So, birthday hopefuls too. Right?
Would, for, like, let's have a party, would yarima show work?
You could, yeah, you
Okay.
could do party o
What
yarimashou.
would be more natural?
Party o shimashou or party o yarimashou. In this case, probably shimashou is better just because we're talking about sensei.
Okay.
And yarimas has a double meaning to it. The other meaning is kind of falling out of favor, but it still exists, which is that it's a give that is a talking down to kind of
Okay.
give. So like, inu ni esa o yaru. Esa is like pet food, food for an animal. So esa o yarimasu is like give the food to somebody who's beneath you. And so, you know, you wouldn't use yaru very often in referencing giving something to a teacher because it has that double entendre that would be a kind of a rude thing
Yeah.
to use
Yeah.
in that case.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one because it's falling out of favor, but there used to be like very clear yaru, ageru, sashe ageru for giving down, giving equal, and giving
To someone
superior.
above
And then they had different ones also for humbly receiving from a superior, receiving from an equal, but somewhat humbly, and receiving from someone inferior. There used to be 3 different ones for that too, I believe, and that again is, you know, the ones for inferior are falling out of the language because they don't make that extreme a distinction as they used to.
Would you, if you were like, 2 things, if you were a political official and say you went to a soup kitchen to, is that a thing where they volunteer their time? over there?
Possibly, yeah.
Would they
Conceivable.
talk to say, like, if they were clearly above, would they say, if they were
I
doing something,
think
that
in-
they're their equal?
I
Just
think
be
in that kind of a situation, any politician who cares about getting people's votes
Yeah.
would be polite
Or
even
if
to
you
the
were
homeless
just a
people.
generally decent human being, would you call them your equal at any
Yeah,
time?
I think in those kinds of circumstances, you would use the neutral, polite, talking to a stranger of equal status to be civil, to be kind. The other person might or might not use an honorific form towards somebody who is, say, a political figure if they're famous.
Okay.
But I don't think a politician would want to insult anybody by talking down too much to somebody they don't know. Now, within their political structure, you know, their secretary or something, they might talk down to. But, yeah, but not somebody that they're meeting for the first time. But within a workplace environment, the talking down to stuff does still
To
happen.
go out of your way to say it in a way that it's, it's just weird.
Yeah, well, it's, like I said, a lot of that stuff is falling out of the language because of modern sensibilities. The other thing that's happening is that some of the talking down to stuff has sort of morphed into talking crudely to your friends kind of language, and it's falling out of use in the professional arena. So like, omae, for example, is a talking down to word for the pronoun you, which historically it would have been perfectly normal for parents to use it to their children and stuff like that, where there was a distinct age gap that made a status difference. But in recent times, it's becoming more and more common for example, guys who are hanging out talking together and they're all friends, to use it to one another. So not just in one direction, but in both directions. So, you know, like doing your, RPG stuff with your friends, if you were all Japanese, you'd be all talking about one another with omae and using ore to refer to yourselves. And, that would just be like normal way of talking among guy friends. Girls don't use it that much. There are certain terms like that where, there's a certain culture that, even in this country, I think guys tend to do like the insult comic thing among themselves more frequently. Some girls don't do that with their girlfriends.
I do.
But some do, but some, it seems to be more common with guys sometimes. And that seems to be the norm in Japan also, that guys are more likely to do that kind of thing with
Is
one another.
insult comedy a big thing in Japan?
Not the insult comedy per se, but just like using
Just slapstick
derogatory or insulting terms to your friends in a joking kind of way, in a friendly, backslapping kind of way, is fairly common within some realms of society. It's not universal for sure.
Well, like, you wouldn't go to a comedy club and see someone doing that with a crowd.
Probably not. No, I don't imagine that happening in Japan easily, no. Yeah, Japanese comedy takes several different forms, but I don't know that that's one of them.
Isn't it like very similar to German comedy? Like,
Oh, we're past time, okay, I didn't realize. That's the problem with not having a working clock in here.
is it broken?
Yeah, it just quit working, it just removed. Yeah. So, and that was after I put a fresh battery in, so I haven't gotten around to doing anything about it yet, but I need to